Hi, welcome back. Not to Wild Speculations, but to a stream where we are going to do some race building.
Yes. Our speculations will wait till next week to be in line with talks for the show.
Yeah, that worked out well for us last time they had a break.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do. This video will go up on YouTube in our Under the Hood playlist. But I'm a little frazzled because our normal setup that we do these kind of streams on didn't work.
Right. Some technical difficulties, but
so
I think we've got a good substitution system going here, so I think we'll be okay in the long run.
Yep. So we're going to shrink down now, be just in the corner, and you'll get to see me type stuff.
All right, so today, instead of the subclasses, which we've done the last couple of times we've done this, we're going to be looking at some races, because you developed some races. Now, is this for, based on Egyptian gods, but is this for a specific one of your homebrew settings, or just something you felt like doing?
No, something I felt like doing. My daughter is really into mythology. And we were having a conversation about it, and I was like, and for some reason my brain just went, well, I wonder how that would work to play them, to basically play those themes, because the Egyptian gods are all, people with animal heads. They're all that humanoid animals like tabaxi and lizard folk, dragonborn. So it's right up D&D alley. Kenku. Aarakocra.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So that's where it started, this whole thing. And I figured I could use this as a excuse to actually, write this stuff down. So, in an electronic format.
There you go.
So, hopefully, my wireless keyboard maintains communication.
So what's the first race we're going to look at?
It's already started. I call them the Get of Ra. Or Rock. I was trying to think of ways to make them sound, I don't know, different. And Sobek Ku, I like the sound of. And so I sort of started that as a theme for the names. But originally they were just Get of, and then a particular god.
Okay.
So the Get of Ra, I looked at Aarakocra as sort of a base to get an idea. But they're not exactly Aarakocra. They're arguably a little more balanced. They just get the +1 to dexterity and +2 to charisma.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. I also like I like giving them advantage on perception checks the same way that ravens or eagles, giant eagles,
Hawks, the
rocks. Yeah.
Yeah. The the raptors, the birds of prey.
Okay. And of course they have a fly speed.
Mm-hmm. Can't really be the hawk god without a scion thereof.
Yeah. And they have a pretty good fly speed. This is the Aarakocra's fly speed. And their speed is also from the Aarakocra.
20 feet.
Yeah. So they're not as fast on the ground as they are in the air. I gave them the dive attack.
Okay.
Which is just dive at least 30 feet. And you get plus 1d6 damage.
Okay. You know, I can already see like this race, me wanting to play one of these races, and doing like a fighter barbarian multi-class, and just after Savage Hawkman from DC Comics, arm him with a mace and a hand crossbow.
Nice. And training in perception.
Okay.
See if Vague sees my keyboard. You know that warning that they put on electronic devices must accept all interference?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah. All the interference.
Yep. And then they have a natural weapon. Talons that do 2d4. No, 1d4, sorry. Plus strength.
Solid. That's
next, or did you have any other
I just
notes on the?
Yeah, I could definitely see me playing a fighter one with a barbarian dip to get just a user 2 of rage to do a Savage Hawkman build. You know, probably depending on what era of the comic, either a champion for the standard or from the early 90s, a battle master where he was a more team player in the Justice League and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a fun one to play, fun build to play. And
so next one I want to talk about is Thoth.
Okay, continuing with the bird theme.
Yep. I wanted to have Thoth is important for a lot of things.
Yes.
And it kind of saddens me that the only flying bird race in D&D is Aarakocra. The Kenku don't fly, even though they desperately want to.
Well, there's spells and magic items that can work that.
True. So Thoth is the god of knowledge.
Knowledge in the written word.
Yep. And also is connected with Egyptian magic.
Yes.
So I took the opportunity to sprinkle in a little bit of high elf.
Okay.
Or even gnome.
Yeah.
Into this build. With their +1 wisdom and +2 intelligence.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely your caster race.
Yeah. And they have a fly speed of 30 feet. And a speed of 30 feet. Because it's based on Thoth is a ibis,
Mm-hmm.
and they're a wading bird.
Right.
So they're as comfortable on the ground as in the sky.
Yeah.
Which these two, designing these two, working on these two, got me in down another rabbit hole about flying.
Yes.
And flying mechanics. And maybe if we have time and we want to get into the weeds on it, we can get into those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I like that you differentiated the speeds between these two rather than just doing the same on both of them. Especially because, like you said, you've got one that's a bird of prey, one that's a wading bird. More, the one's the hunter,
Yeah.
the seeker, and the other's just the more patient, I guess.
Yeah. And they don't fly fast, but they do fly far.
Right.
Um,
And then here we see the sprinkling of gnome you mentioned.
yeah, advantage on intelligence, wisdom.
And charisma against magic.
Okay, I think we're just gonna have to abbreviate this so that I don't go crazy. And their skill training is in Arcana. And then they get to choose. Yeah. History or religion.
Okay.
Keeping with that theme of, they're the
knowledge and magic.
Right. I swear I don't type this bad. It's my keyboard.
Hisotri.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, this next part of them is the interesting one to me, and I'd like you to let us know why you gave them telepathy as compared to, especially when you said sprinkling in of elf, I would have thought maybe just a cantrip like the high elf gets.
Yeah, I thought about that. But the reason why I gave him telepathy, and this is maybe a stretch and possibly not excuse me, not necessary. Excuse me. Is ibis are silent.
Okay.
So I like the idea of giving them, and it's only one way.
So they can only speak, they can't listen.
Right. The person still has to respond vocally.
Okay.
it may be an unnecessary restriction,
Mm-hmm.
but I just like the idea that they rely on on that telepathic link to speak to others, so that in theory, a room full of them could be speaking to each other without a sound.
Okay.
Um,
Great librarians.
yeah, they never need to say shh. I don't necessarily. So I'll ask you this because you are currently playing a Kenku,
Yes.
and this we've talked about this to some degree. Should they have a limitation that they can't actually speak?
So in this case, I would be more okay with it than with the Kenku. I don't.
Because the telepathy allows you to speak with anyone.
Right. Because you can speak, and it's just you saying it to. I say to this person, and they're the only one that hears it, and then you understand the languages, but you can still speak normally. And while I agree that it's a great role playing exercise to completely limit you to only
using the telepathy, and
with the Kenku, to only using things you've heard, and depending on how you read that in your DM's interpretation of that, it can be from scene to scene.
Yeah.
You know, it's great if you're a voice actor. If you're not good with voices, it can get a little frustrating.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of that limitation on the Kenku. I think it would be more acceptable, though I wouldn't want to see it on this one.
Right. Yeah, and I also am leery of putting that kind of limitation.
Yeah.
As well, because they're not ibis.
Right.
You know, it's just nice to give them the option to communicate silently.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than forcing the issue.
Yeah.
So yeah. And then the next one that I did was Sobek. And this, so Get of Sobek, this naming convention actually came from a game of Stellaris.
Okay.
Because I created a reptilian species that I called the Get of Sobek.
Okay.
And they were fanatic spiritualists and militarists, I think. And they are pretty cool to play, and they're always a major player when I force choose them to populate the galaxy.
Okay.
So, yeah. And for them, I took a lot of inspiration from the lizard folk.
Okay.
But they're not lizard folk exactly. Like the birds, they have a swim speed.
Mm-hmm.
And a regular speed. Now, they have a bite. And this is controversial for people that I have shown this to. Because it does a 1d6.
Okay.
Plus strength. But the target is grappled.
Just automatically?
Automatically. Because that's what crocodiles and alligators do.
Yeah.
They bite, and they hold on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can hold an alligator's mouth shut.
Yeah.
But you cannot open it.
Yes.
So, just giving them that bite attack, and the target is grappled, I don't think is a. I don't know. I don't think it's a huge thing.
I don't know that it's a huge thing. I think it could be exploited. I think for balance reasons, just because any other thing that gives you a attack that results in a grapple makes it a bonus action to grapple afterwards.
Well, there are monster stats that say at the
Right,
end of
but
this
you're not
attack,
making a monster, and monsters are on a slightly
different.
different plane than player characters.
Yeah. In fact, the crocodile and giant crocodile both have. I think they both is grapple with the attack.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not necessarily against it. I would have to see it played and see how it, took effect. Now, mind you, these are, if I'm correct, pretty much your initial notes.
Yeah.
None of these have been play tested
No,
yet.
yeah. This is just a flight of fancy that I was on.
Right. So, I mean, I would say leave it, but I would be open to changing it to bonus action grapple. We'll check if it ends up being too much.
Or lower the damage to a d4.
Yeah.
Because cantrips, if there's a controlling aspect, it lowers the die size.
Yeah. One of the two.
Okay.
And this is another one. The natural armor.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 13 plus dex, which is standard. That's mage armor. That's I would almost with them go the route of the Loxodon and do 12 plus con modifier.
Oh. I hadn't thought about that.
I think that would make more sense for the type of beast you're representing.
And that would also add another layer of differentiation between them and lizard folk.
Right.
Which is something I was sort of...
Right, which is what the lizard folk have, and mage armor and draconic sorcerers. And, but the Ravnica book introduced that new racial method, and I actually kind of like it. It gives a little more weight to con besides the good hit points. It takes a little weight off of dex, which carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Mechanically.
And this is the notes version. And it's basically the same thing that
it's a sprinkling of half orc, yeah.
Because Sobek is one of the war gods of Egypt. And he's depicted it coming back.
Yeah.
He just doesn't go down. It's stealth or survival. And this is the weird one.
Hold breath. So, and I get the note version, but for uniformity and wording, it would be 10 times con modifier in minutes.
Yeah.
Minimum 10 minutes.
Right. And so the lizard folk can hold their breath for, I think it's 15 minutes, something like that.
I think so. I'd have to crack open up all those. But.
It's in terms of game time, it's significant.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I was doing research on falcons, ibis, crocodiles,
Yeah.
all these things uh, to sort of how to not necessarily better approximate, but approximate differently
Mm-hmm.
in game mechanics these animals' abilities.
Yeah.
Uh, and crocodiles can hold their breath for 30 minutes easy.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was like, well, they get a bonus to con. That's probably going to put them in the +2 to +4
Mm-hmm.
range. So I
Well,
had 10 minutes per con mod.
why did you give them the proficiency option? Seems to be something you're doing with most of these.
Most of the races
Mm-hmm.
are given proficiencies, either in weapons or skills or both.
Okay.
Um, so I kept that as part of it.
And see, I would almost just now. I haven't done a lot of study into crocodiles, but I know like they will submerge all but like their eyes and the tips of their nose and stuff. And I would almost instead, just to differentiate things a little bit, and not everyone does get proficiency, give them advantage in watery terrain on stealth checks.
Instead of skill training.
Mm-hmm. It would be akin to the Sverneblin being able to do it in rocky situations, albeit a more limited scope.
Yeah. But I kind of. The thing is with the crocodile's stealth, would you view their ability as that stealth to be only dependent on water? Because they're also pretty stealthy on land when they're not basking.
Possibly.
That's
or maybe
why
just a natural environment.
that's why I'm resistant to that.
No, and yeah, I'm just throwing things out there.
But you make a good point. It's an interesting thing. We'll put it up there. Okay, that was uh, the next one that I have was super hard, and I'm not sure I like it, but it it's where I started, where I'm starting.
Okay.
But Set,
Mm-hmm.
who is there's no known real animal that makes up his head. It is simply now they call it the Set animal. They don't know if it is an animal that was there and then was driven extinct, or if it is a combination of animals, if it is a stylized version of one of 3 different animals. But yeah, so this one was hard to work out specifically. But Set is an adversary of Horus, but he also helps Ra.
Okay.
He is one of the he guards the barge
Mm-hmm.
Along with Horus. So and he's sort of evil, but also kind of not in some stories. Um, but +2 wisdom and +1 con is what I went with.
Okay.
In part, drawing on Yuan Ti.
Okay.
So I did look to Yuan Ti a little bit for Setesha, just because they're the serpent people in D&D. And now, the first of our races to have dark vision.
Yes, which I'm entirely okay with. I think that's one of the things I like about the expanded races with Ubolos and Ravnica, and all these others. That there are more races now without dark vision than with.
We're in the player's handbook.
There's more with dark, and I don't think it's necessary and I don't think it's as big an advantage as most people play it as.
Most people play it wrong.
That's exactly what I mean. Because darkness is still dim light
for them.
So darkness, your perception check should still be at disadvantage unless you have the Skulker feat.
Yep. Yep. And so few DMs.
Yes.
Are sticklers about that.
And we have flip-flopped on whether we hold to that or not in our home games.
Yeah, I tend to try to enforce it.
Yeah.
But I also don't force you guys, when you're on watch, I don't force you to take the disadvantage roll.
Yeah.
I will ask, did you roll that with disadvantage? And then if you say no, then I go, okay. And I give you what you heard.
Yeah.
Or what you smelled.
Yeah.
You don't get vision information. But that's the last 3 episodes of Critical Role show how important darkness is.
Yes.
For your players to not be able to see what's ahead. Yeah. Limiting that field of view. And
yeah, especially with whatever happened that have their dark vision.
Yeah.
It's a great way to build suspense.
Yeah. I have built terror in an encounter. Admittedly, I was using Roll20, and I could futz around with the map and vision and light and stuff, and use the Fog of War. But it was a simple grid map in a sewer, but they could not see more than 60 feet in any direction. And it created a super claustrophobic environment. And maybe I went a little overboard and it got a little sloggy, but it kept them, I don't know, I think it kept them on nerves.
Yeah. And I enjoy using the descriptors of the smell and the sounds and stuff, especially when I run a Call of Cthulhu game,
Yeah.
Because those descriptors, and when you not just it smells bad, but there's a scent of mold and of decay, and just playing it out with words and stuff that is really good for building that suspense. So
yeah,
little just rabbit hole there.
Yeah. Now this is a huge departure from every single racial innate spellcasting, in that they get to choose every time they get a spell, they get to choose between 2.
Oh wow! Okay.
And this is because of Set's dichotomy and his varied power.
Okay. I like that idea.
So first level, they get a cantrip, and it's either going to be the Gust cantrip or Mold Earth,
Okay.
because Set is the god of the desert
Okay.
and the dunes. Uh, third level,
Looks like disguise self or create destroy water.
Yep. And again, this is his ability to hide himself and to disguise what he is, and also desert.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then at 5th level,
Continuing with that theme.
so at 5th level they get Alter Self or Dust Devil. Again, the Dust Devil because of the dust storms, the sandstorms of the desert, and Alter Self because again, Set is hard to pin down.
Yes.
And some of these are on, like Yuan Ti get Disguise Self,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Alter Self as well. I think, if my memory is
And
correct.
Alter Self has become, with the Sunday game, one of my favorite spells. I've mainly used it for the disguise aspect, but I just love the whip out the natural weapons or become water breathing.
Yeah.
I love the idea of that. Just very very useful utility wise.
Yeah.
Very.
And last, they have training and deception as their skill training.
Yep.
Again, because of that slippery nature that they have. Now, Hathor, I took an awful lot from Minotaur.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Because Hathor's cow.
Okay.
Cow, bull, Minotaur.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Whenever Hathor comes up, and I know it's not exact to the Egyptian mythology, but I just always think of Hathor from Stargate SG-1.
Fair. And I used Hathor as the villain in our Mages, the House of Life one shot that we did with my daughter.
Yeah.
That's on our YouTube channel. Horns. 1d6 plus strength. One change from Minotaur.
Okay.
And this, so Hathor is depicted as sort of an investigator.
Okay.
She listens to the truth of people's words and stuff. And also cows are always angling their ears and everything. And,
right.
So I wanted to differentiate them from a Minotaur, and that was one of the ways that I decided to do it.
Okay.
Is to reflect that perceptive nature, where Minotaurs come from the perspective of an evil monster hunting you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted Hathor to be more of the herd animal, the domesticated bovine
Okay.
thing. Now I thought about trying to build in something about being partial to alcohol, because that's how, when Hathor went crazy and started destroying things, that's how they calmed her down. They drugged some beer and tricked her into drinking it, and it put her to sleep. So, but I figure the +1 con is good enough.
Okay.
And then powerful build, because they're beast of burdens.
Right.
Well, that's not entirely. Well, I mean it is, but it's not. I think it's how it's worded.
Gotcha.
But effectively, you're doubling your carrying capacity. Right.
Now, this is the one that, to me, doesn't say domesticated bovine.
Cows and bulls will run you down. And there's a reason why they're. They. True, it's not. Like, I didn't want to give them all of the attack abilities of a Minotaur, because a Minotaur also has the shove.
Right.
The hammering horns.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, giving them, a bonus action at the end of a dash, you can make a horn attack. I don't think that's.
Oh, it's by no means like broken or anything.
But again, this comes back to, Hathor did go on a destruction rampage. So.
Yeah.
Just to mention it, I'm not going to bother typing it out here right now.
Okay.
Because
of how it ended up.
Yes, but the get of Bastet, Basteta, as I'm sort of playing with around the names, cat people, Tabaxi. Yeah. I think they nailed cat people pretty well.
Yeah.
In Volos. So I didn't see any point to change it.
Okay.
So they are exactly Tabaxi. And so only our second race with dark vision.
Out of a total of 8, correct?
Yes.
And our true snake people.
Yes. Okay, that's spelled wrong. It's Greek to me.
I see what you did there.
try. But the Egyptian name for him is Apep.
Yes.
The Greeks translated it as Apophis, which you may know from Stargate as well.
Yes.
+2 charisma, +1 intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
speed 30 feet, dark vision.
So this race is almost exactly the UNT out of Polos.
Yes.
So what changes did you make for this one?
Actually, you don't know if I don't know if I did.
I'm looking. I'm not seeing too many.
I think yeah. I also took the shortcut and used UNT.
Yeah.
For them. So yeah.
Which works.
Yeah. So we'll skip them just like we skipped the.
And that gives us 3 of 8 with dark vision.
Yes. And the final one, Anubis. Do not. I'll spoil it for you. Plus 2 charisma. So I went back and forth on this.
Mm-hmm.
Because very few give more than 2 attributes bonuses.
Yes.
Humans, which get a +1 to everything.
Right, if you're not playing the variant.
Right. And half elves.
And Tritons.
Do Tritons get?
They get +1 strength, +1 con, +1 charisma.
That's right. Okay. Right about Triton. But this spread, of course, is half elf spread.
It's half elf, but without the choice on the +1s.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose those 3 attributes is because Anubis, Jackal, they're scavengers, but they're also sort of dogs. They're canines. And that to me is just very much charisma, con, and wisdom for scavengers, hunters.
Yeah.
And man's best friend. Yeah, I gave them
the wood
35 speed. And that also is because they're fast. Jackals are fast.
Yes, they are.
And Anubis is essentially the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Of the faith. So they got to get around fast.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that Tabaxi for a turn can be faster than them, but over the long distance, they are going to outpace the Tabaxi. Which is the whole cats and dogs thing. I thought was funny.
The cats are good at a sprint. The dogs are good at. Bandage odd smells.
Yes.
Yes. Wisdom perception checks involving smell.
Yep. Insight insert. insight, and survival. Again, this comes from,
Being a dog.
a desert hunter. Yeah, a dog. But also, he's involved in the trial of the scales.
Yeah.
So, having them.
I mean, animals in general, but especially dogs, have pretty good insight.
Yeah. Mm. And I can't read my writing there, but it's the ethereal plane. Yes, well, let's see. Does the program know what I'm trying to say? Yes. God, see? Okay. My own private thing. Okay. Yeah, so
So,
bonus action, they can see into the ethereal plane.
for how long?
Until
the start of their next turn? Until
Yeah.
the end of the next turn?
And into the next turn.
Okay.
And then the natural weapon. That's 2d4.
Now, why did you choose 2d4? Most natural weapons are either a d4 or a d6. Why did you up it to 2d4?
Because of all the canines in the monster manual, their bites are 2d4.
Okay.
It may be unbalancing.
But that's what playtest is for.
So, and I mean, and that's even, it's 2d4 with the control ability with
Yeah.
the monsters, because you have to make a strength check or be knocked prone.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the last bit.
Is the stout halfling.
Or dwarf.
Or hill dwarf, yeah.
Yeah. And this is the aspect of the scavenger.
Yeah. Yeah, that and the con.
Yeah. So yeah, that's those are the races that I thought up for doing an Egyptian themed game. Now, when I was doing this, I thought about doing an Osirin.
Okay.
But decided that there was already a plethora of undead to choose from. That I was like, I don't. And in my head, as I was building these, and I was thinking about a potential campaign, it was all these people along the river Nile.
Right.
And the Osirians, the dead, are to the west in the deep desert, or south at the origin, where Osiris rules from.
Yeah.
Or where his member is lost.
Snoopy, which race are you asking if it's a lot for one race on? The Anubis?
Yeah, probably. The only thing that I think is potentially too much is the natural weapon. But everything else is well within balancing.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Not when you like look at something like the Minotaur, who has natural weapons plus the Goring Rush plus the Hammering Horns plus the powerful build plus.
Minotaurs don't have power.
Oh, they don't have powerful build. They do have intimidation, right?
Yeah, intimidation, and I put away near cost character sheet. But yeah.
Yeah, I think they're on par with like a Minotaur, a Centaur, a Goliath, without the powerful build, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as what they get, it's definitely one of the more packed races, but I don't think it's more than what we've seen in official product.
Yeah. Yeah, when I brew stuff, I try to look at what is already out there and say, okay, what's this, and this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have the half elf stats, they have the wood elf speed. They have skill training, which most of the races have.
Right.
The ghost sight is weird, but not broken in any way, I don't think.
I don't think any more than the lizard folks' ability to cobble shields and weapons out of the remains of
whatever it is
they kill.
Yeah. And then, of course, we already talked about the dwarf and rock gnome resistance.
Stout halfling.
Stout halfling. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
The bite's the only thing for me.
Yeah.
For these guys,
that would be the one thing for me, and why I brought up the asking why you put the damage in 2d4.
Yeah. I don't know. That's all of them. Our hour is almost up that we normally broadcast for, but we don't have talks
to rush
as a
to.
hard out. Do we want to do the?
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
So since we're dealing with races, I don't know how many of you watching or if you, Dan, have read the Piers Anthony Santh series of novels.
I have not.
It's very punny, and you have to be able to take a lot of puns to read them. But a lot of them are pretty good. I've read quite a few of them. But basically, Xanth is this land, and it's basically Florida, but like magical land Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody there has a magical talent, and it varies in power. You know, from simple cantrips to magician level is what they call it. You know, really powerful people. You know, and I've often wondered how you would put that out. You know, because you'd have to have some variance of power. Some of them would have more powerful spells. You know, like could you do something like they get their intelligence modifier in levels worth of spells? That almost seems too powerful, because if you have a +5 intelligence, you could have a 5th level spell that you could use once a day. But you can't really do just give them that many cantrips, because that wouldn't accurately represent the more powerful ones.
Do you think their level of power is equivalent to, say, Magic Initiate?
I would say the average person, yes. But some of them are more powerful than that.
Do you think that would be better reflective in their class?
No. And because you see some of the more powerful ones would be like, he's So one of them, his name is Trent. He's one of the early major players in the series, and he basically is Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong for someone going against him, his magic makes it go wrong for them. But his class would be a battle master. But then one of the other more powerful ones is just his name is Humphrey. He knows where to get things. So he's the magician of knowledge, because he knows where to find things. He knows where to find all the answers. And so he's collected this massive, with his knowledge gift, he's collected this massive artifacts, basically. And it may be one of those that isn't suitable to move into a race. You know what I mean?
I think you could do something where they produce a number of spell points.
Okay.
Every day, with which they can purchase spell levels or spell slots. And like, if you wanted to do it randomly, like a D8 or a D10 plus intelligence or something like that.
Okay.
Spell points every day that you charge up.
If I was going to do that, I would almost make it the die increase with their level, and do just like the Bardic Inspiration die.
Or you can just add level on as a flat modifier.
Yeah. Well, then you could do it like the Circle of Dreams or the Celestial Warlock, where they get level plus their whatever modifier.
Because I think I also kind of like the idea of saying, or maybe that's how you do it, because they're basically humans, right?
Yeah, other than that, they're humans.
So for each +1 on an attribute that you give up is a die size for your spell points.
Okay. And you can only use the spell points to create spell slots?
Yeah. So that would mean, let's see, so taking it from a regular human to a variant human, that's 4, 6, 8, 10, so up to a D10.
Okay.
That D10 plus your character level in spell points every day.
Yeah. That could work. I mean, they would, at that point, they would have to take a class with spells to make use of those slots.
Yes. Or maybe you give them a different version of innate spellcasting, where they can use the spell slots that they can create to power them.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you can do this once a day. You can do this as many times as you can create spell slots. Yeah. And you can also have the die size represent the max level. So cantrip, first, second, third. So up to a third level spell slot.
Yeah.
So that would give you the most flexibility in power sets.
Yeah.
Because the person gets to choose what spell their innate spellcasting is.
Yeah.
For that.
A D4 plus intelligence, and at 5 goes to D8. Yeah, that could work too. I think I like the variable give up stat bonuses and
Yeah, I think.
And then this, like you said, if you give up 1, you get a cantrip. You give up 2, you get a first level.
Yeah, up to a 3rd level.
Up to a 3rd level.
And then you're creating a D10 plus your character level in spell points every day. And I believe.
And then what you could do is you could just use the sorcerer chart for converting, and they can.
Oh no, there's a chart in the DMG.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I got into this discussion in a discussion thread on Facebook about the alternate long rest rules, where a long rest is a week.
Right.
And how do you parse out your spell recharge in a system like that? Do you just say your spell slots come back on Sunday? Because that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And there are narrative reasons why you would want to do that from a world building perspective that has ramifications to it.
Yeah, I think that would be great for something like a Dragonline setting where the magic is dependent on the phase of the moon.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So you can do that, but it's not reflective of an adventuring lifestyle.
Right.
To do that. So.
Unless you use a lot of rituals and scrolls.
Right. And my proposed solution was a spell point system where the character recharges their level in spell points every day. And they can buy spell slots as they use them or as they can.
Okay.
And half casters, it's half their level. Third casters, it's a third their level.
Right.
So I have yet to playtest that.
I think that would be fun to playtest.
So.
And the reason why I thought of the sorcerers because they can convert up to a 5th level spell slot, and then that would give if you've got a max of a 3rd level spell, but if you chose one that's upcastable, that would give you even more flexibility.
Yeah, that's true too.
But the system you're talking about sounds like I could create a higher level spell slot anyway.
Yes, there are specific rules about how many 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th you can create. I think it's just 1 a day for each of those levels.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense.
Yeah, because otherwise, why not just create 2 9th level spell slots every day?
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I think something like that would work. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to chat about the flying rules that I came up with, or no?
Yeah.
Especially since I don't have them typed yet. I just have my handwritten notes. I don't know how engaging that would be to watch.
Maybe we'll do that on the next special, the next break.
Yeah.
We can cover flight rules and tactical combat in air.
And maybe even do a sample encounter.
Yeah. That could be fun.
I think we'll do that.
All right.
So, with that, we will bid you adieu.
Yes. We'll be back next week to talk Critical Role, episode 69.
Yep. we'll see you then, guys. Bye.